Oof. It's lucky. I got 4 scatters. Wow. Does that change anything? I actually don't know. Let's go for the train heist. Let's do that. Kind of forgot how you increase the multiplier by hitting wilds, I think. Yeah. I know. Yeah. So you increase the amount of spins and you increase the multiplier. Still haven't quite made up my mind what I think about this game. I think, given the goals of this game, that they've done a really good job. Because if you look at it from the perspective that the original Dead or Alive is there, it's like a cult classic amongst streamers and old-time players. It's not necessarily a big performer for operators, because a lot of people just don't play it, but, you know, it has a fan following because the potential is high, and the potential gets shared on forums with screenshots. So it's known for that. So if you're gonna do a remake, you have to make sure the potential is even better, which this game has. And that the gameplay is similar but improved, which again it has, because it has different free spin modes, otherwise it plays very similar. And then you want to upgrade the graphics to make it look better than what it did before, because it is an old game, Dead or Alive. Dead or Alive is from... when is it? So the first video slots NetEnt made was end of 2007. Viking's Treasure, Spellcast. Those were the first ones. So I would guess that Dead or Alive was somewhere 2008. So we're 11 years later. You have to make it look better. And I think it looks better. I mean, it took me a while to get used to it, because it's a little bit much more... much more use of colors, which is good because the original was a kind of bit dull. But they kept the color increases to the actual symbols. Everything around it is still kind of mellow, which is good. So if you look at it from the perspective, like let's say the 90s, because you can compare slots a lot, I think, with early video games, is that when you had a successful game early 90s, let's say Settlers 1, and then you make a new game a few years later, Settlers 2, then your graphic increase is not that high, but it's noticeable, but the gameplay is still very the same. And that's exactly what Dead or Alive delivers. Now typically, if you span 11 years in the video game industry, like what happened here, then you wouldn't end up with something like this. Well, you would, like Duke Nukem 3D and Duke Nukem Forever, but that's a flop. But what would typically happen in video games is that you would reinvent the original game and update it to the latest and greatest. So then you would have Dead or Alive, the original Western game, and then Dead or Alive 2 would be like Borderlands, where you have some sort of post-apocalyptic Wild West. Which I think would have been fun if NetEnt would have done that, but that would be the Thunder Kick way of doing things. You know, we do something crazy, we do something special, because we're arty. But that's not how this game should have been done. It should have been done exactly like NetEnt has done it. play it safe, but you know, they know exactly what it is that they wanted to deliver. What does the quick spin look like here? Because it feels kind of slow. That feels better. I think for a game where you're looking for that big win, where most of the wins don't really matter, you're just chasing the free spins or a juicy base game hit, I think it's fine to have this as your standard spin speed. Because I'm pretty sure, it has to be still 3 seconds or more anyways. And 3 seconds is totally fine. Especially for a high volatility game, just speed it up. I've seen a lot of posts on forums as well. People talking about getting 40,000x, 10,000x, 5,000x. So I think in this day and age of streamers and the exposure of providers and games because of streamers, it's a very good release. Really fits well. But I don't think it's the kind of game that I would promote for my new players or my casual players. Alright. Sticky wild symbols with multipliers. 5 free spins if the wild symbol appears on each reel. Let's do that. And let's disable the quick spin setting for now. This feels more like the old school Dead or Alive, doesn't it? Praying to get the wind line of wilds. And just like the old school Dead or Alive, I'm gonna walk away with barely anything. So it's definitely on brand. But that's the risk that I take. I go for the high volatility. I didn't get it. But, you know. What is good when suppliers offer a range of options like that is that when you, as a player, then choose the high volatility, I don't feel that I can blame the game. Like, if I would play a game that only there's no options, but it's highly volatile, I will blame the game for not giving me any wins. In this case, I can easily blame myself for choosing the high volatility option when there is a low volatility option. But if I then go with the low volatility option, I do expect a certain return. And if I then don't get it, I'll be doubly disappointed because I gave up the option of having big wins and I wanted to settle, and then I didn't even get that. So it's pros and cons to this, but because there is a range of options, it just keeps it more entertaining. It's more exciting, so it's definitely better than the scenario where you just get the 1 free spins and you don't get the option. So just as a throwback, I'm just gonna play the old Dead or Alive. Oof, that is weird. to go and experience it after playing the second one. So, very similar, really, if you look at it from like the real frame perspective, even the background, kind of. And the symbols are kind of similar as well. They all just gotten an upgrade. So they've done a really good job. If you liked the first one, there is actually no reason not to like the second one, I think. I would be interested to hear any reasons people would say that they prefer to play the old one. Just from a gameplay perspective. It doesn't matter like your own personal kind of big hits history. Purely from a gameplay perspective, what is the reason for anyone to want to play the old one? And that's kind of the problem. Is it a problem? Or that's kind of the consideration that suppliers have to make. If I release a new game, a new version of an old game, then ultimately wanting players to stop playing the old game and only playing the new game. And I risk, if I release a bad new game, that I ruin the experience completely because... And this is maybe more of a video game attitude, but if there is a new version of a game, but I don't like that new version, but I can't go back to the old game, because I'm not going to be playing an old game when there is a new version out, but I don't like the new version, so I just stop playing it completely. Which, to be fair, is not really a concern in slots, I don't think, but it's a consideration nonetheless.